Hello, welcome back. Today we are talking with Ezra Sinclair. We're talking about leadership, leading with heart, valuing communication over control. And it's going to be a great conversation because Ezra has spent 4 years on yachts around the world, and he coaches leaders on how to develop and grow their skills so that they can more effectively lead and manage their teams, so that they can have a better impact and a better team environment altogether. So, hello, Ezra. How are you doing?
Hi, yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's
Thank
great
you.
to be here and discuss this subject. I think it's something very powerful and I can't wait to dive in.
Yes, definitely. So, let's just go straight in with our first question. You've worked with a lot of leaders now. So, what do you believe is the key difference between a leader who motivates their team and one who simply manages them?
Yeah, that's an absolutely great question. And, you know, I think motivation really comes from a desire within someone. And there's a lot of controversy around, whether you can kind of create that motivation in someone rather than, them have to come to the place or position with that motivation. And I think that's kind of a lot of that is seeded within like passion and desire for where they are, where they want to be, and where they want to move to, and their kind of, you know, in genuine interest in what they're doing. And control with control, I think some some people will want to take control of situations, and for whatever reason that has crafted their experience in life, they want to take control and they want to be in control the whole time. And I think that can be very damaging to a relationship between a leader and whom they're working with. I think giving people control is very empowering and will create motivation within someone, even if they've come to that place without motivation. Giving that responsibility, having that trust given to them by a leader can empower them to get desire and grow that motivation for what they're doing. So I think there's a big difference between taking control of a situation and giving control. And I think although there are times and places when, especially in the career, in the industry that I'm working with, sometimes you have to have that control. There's safety reasons in place and the respect needs to be there, the trust needs to be there, and that control you need to be control. Like you need to be in control of the ship. You need to be in control of, if you're in situations that there's these procedures that could be life threatening or could create huge damage to certain things, the control needs to be there. And there's a time and place for that. But around those situations, I think it's important to entrust the people you work with to also take control and empower them to want to take control. And I think that is something that you do learn, you can learn. And if you trust them, they're going to trust you, and it's going to build a nice harmonizing environment wherever you are. And I completely understand it, why it's hard to do this. If you've built something, or if you're in responsibility of something huge or something massive, or this is your baby, you built a company, it's scary to give that control away. But you're going to understand very fast that it takes a ton of pressure off you. You have someone and they're almost replicating what you do, and you're giving them that. You want them to be in a place where they feel empowered. You want them to be making empowered decisions, and you want to have the time to focus on really important things and give that your all as well. Things that, you can't control away to right now, but in the future, that's something that you can also look at. Where do you need to give control away to? And where can you where do you need to be in control?
Yeah, I completely get that. And what was coming to my mind there with control is
Mm.
what you were saying, where control is much more like you wanting to just have clones of yourself. Whereas to effectively have a team that runs appropriately, you do have to communicate with them because generally speaking, your team is a team of people, not a team of robots. Because robots, you can program them to behave in a certain way. And even then, every now and again, they mess up, right? But a robot can be programmed and you expect exactly the same results, exactly the same every single day. But humans aren't like that. To get efficiency out of robots, you need to program them well and then check up on them. Humans, to get real impact and efficiency out of humans, you have to give them the correct human fuel, which isn't programming. It is trust. It is clear communication, explaining things, inspiring them. Where we've got that whole motivation piece, what was coming to my mind there again is motivation is a lot of that's like momentum. It's the energy. And so sometimes you can have somebody that's very good at their job, but they start to just fall off a little bit. And that's because they can't see a future. That could be one of the reasons. There could be several reasons, but a lot of times is because there's no plan for progress. So if they're effectively just doing the same thing over and over again, and that doesn't feed them anymore, then you're putting the wrong fuel into the human. The robot can just be reprogrammed and be reset. The human needs different fuel. It needs inspiring. It needs to be able to know what progress looks like in order to keep said human motivated to deliver what they need to do for the leader, which even my language there really sounds a bit robotic, but you see what I mean, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it's a lot. Um, and also what was coming up as well is that if control is being a clone, then communication is about enablement. And we
Mm.
know what it's like when we've many of us at the very least have had difficult experiences in our lives where we've seen um, difficult people be enabled, and we can see the results of that. That's how powerful enablement is.
Mm.
So using enablement the right way, you can get unbelievable results out of humans, things that robots still can't dream of.
Mm.
But there's still such a desire to treat humans like robots and then get annoyed when the humans don't behave like robots.
Mm.
You know, what are your thoughts on enablement?
I think I think it's very powerful, and I think that is why we hire humans. I think that should be that you don't we great if you want to get something very specific done and exactly the way you want it, and that is like that my way or the highway. The classic saying, if you want, if that's what you need, that's what you want. You want precision, consistency, exactly the same every time, and you don't. But that is it. Like, you don't want any growth, you don't want any change, you don't want adaptation. Um, then fine, get a robot, but you're going to miss all of the main advantages of having a human within your team, which is huge for perspective, different perspectives, different views on things. At the end of the day, what makes great places to be and great companies, because it's hard enough to see the bigger picture when you're standing in the picture. You need to step back, and sometimes that view is going to come from the people around you and in those lower positions, and really giving value to each person in that place is going to help them, show you that perspective. And that's really where you find power. Some of the most successful companies, like, they use their employees as employees, not as robots. They ask for them to bring up what they think, to say what their issues are that they see, the differences that they see, because one issue for one person might never be thought about by another. But that issue is what 90% of people are dealing with. And they can say that to someone and they can act on that. You can decide to act on that. But even being aware of that and having those things or those issues brought up will give you so much more awareness of issues in general, I feel. If you have 5 people who are constantly saying, okay, this is going to happen, this is what I see, this is hard for me, this is the problem for me, saying what they're going through, sharing their perspective, you're going to start seeing things from different angles and be able to take that knowledge and those different angles into everything you're doing. So I think enabling people to have that power is really enabling your company as a whole or your position to grow and to adapt, to fit and to work for more and more people in a more productive manner.
Yeah. And it's like what you were saying at the beginning, where it's about your goals. What are your goals? Do you want to keep things exactly the same as they were? And how long for? Because, there are companies who've been doing something a certain way for decades, and it worked then, so it'll work now, and nothing needs to be changed at all. And some of it could still be working now, but they could be missing out on a whole pile of growth or whatever it is, because they're not adapting with the times. And that's not to say that everybody should run after the latest shiny ball. But what was coming to my mind again as you were speaking is, when we're talking about businesses in general, so this might not necessarily be directly linked to being a captain, but you'll know more than I do. When you're starting a business, and let's say it's just you or it's just family run, right? When it's one person starting a business, they're doing absolutely everything. And so they've learned how to do things in a certain way. And then they give those instructions to the people who they employ. And then as time goes on, you're going to get one person managing marketing instead of that being 10% of the owner's original time, right? And where you then have one person doing this whole job, they will have much more time to spend on it. And so therefore, ideally, if they have the freedom and the authority and the trust, can experiment and do things with a higher quality. If they have a leader, if they were just having a manager, then that manager would be like, but you're not doing the things in the exact same way that I did. And because you've got more time, just do it like how I did it, but do it 50 more times. Just increase the volume of what I did instead of trying to find the other ways, the quality ways, and learning with the times. Because again, one person's perspective 5 years ago, that may change. If you were doing something fresh now, your perspective on things could be different. And again, I think some of the lack of trust, where does that come from? Things can be scary, so people don't necessarily want to trust other people to change stuff, because if something goes wrong, then they'll have to fix it. But I think, if anything, the lack of trust comes from not just that, oh my gosh, I'll have to fix it. It's that I won't know how to fix it. So it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's that kind of thing. It's like, I won't be able to fix it if you do get something wrong, because I don't trust myself to adapt and be creative and figure things out. And I've seen that a lot with leaders, and I've had really delicate conversations with some leaders who, at the core of it, they realize that they don't trust themselves, or that they have a gap in their learning that they haven't filled due to a false belief that they didn't think that they should still be having to learn, that they left university decades ago. So why would you be picking up a book now? It makes them feel somehow smaller. And it's like, that's being a leader, is being able to continuously learn and adapt so that you can provide the best guidance for your people. Have you seen anything like that go wrong on a yacht for guidance?
I mean, I wouldn't say from my experience, I think the biggest things that come up with that is the fact that there can be 2 very different people in the same position, and they swap in and out. So then it's difficult, because they have different rules, they have different ways of doing things, and they don't communicate, and they don't train together and work together and come up with a cohesive plan. It can be very distressing for people, because they're now, when they change leaders, it's a different world, like, when you run a business with someone, it's like you have two different CEOs come in and they have different rules of what you're allowed to do in the office, or how you have to word things when they're there, and it changes when the next one comes in. It's completely up in the air, and that its togetherness just is gone. So not that I've seen anything huge. I mean, it impacts people hugely, but I wouldn't say there's been a big change. But I think, with communication and growing in communication and really working on learning and communication, I think it's super important, because even if there's things that are very different, if you have the right communications in place, that is okay. You can be two very different people and communicate about it and understand why each other are doing certain things. Again, it's the same with having those people, and you're trying to manage a situation rather than lead a situation. You're only ever going to reach a certain place, and that's a place that you believe is possible. You're here, and this is where you're going to stay, because you're only letting the people who are working for you come to here, because you're saying you need to do this, you do this way, this way, this way. You're not giving any opportunity for them to explore this way and then go up and then explore over here. And, I think there's a lot of reasons why that happens, but I think confidence plays a big role there. I think if you're really confident within yourself and secure, you want to bring people to the same level as you, and you want people to get past that level, because you want to see people grow and become the best version of themselves. And I think with that, that's when the place, your environment, becomes better than you, and you can all grow together, and you're all bouncing off each other and growing together. But if you micromanage, you're stopping or capping growth, and ultimately capping your growth as well. And I think when you build that confidence and you get into that position of great leadership, you encourage growth from everyone, and you encourage people by teaching them the best way to do the job the best as they can, as you're doing. And once you've got someone doing a job as you are, or as good as you are, it gives you so much more opportunity to explore and enhance what you're doing yourself. And I think that's a really good mark of a leader, is someone who wants the very best for everyone who's, around them.
I completely agree. So I have a question here then,
Mm.
because we know there are leaders that want the best for people around them. There are definitely leaders that do actively cap growth because they don't want to see the people that they're training surpass them. We've met them. But what about the leaders who are somewhere in the middle, where they've realized that they have confidence issues, maybe in parts of their skill set? They haven't grown in a while. They haven't learned in a while. They might like to, but they wouldn't know where to start. But they're also quite concerned that their lack of growth is also stifling growth in the people that they are governing. What would you say to those people who want to grow and want to be better leaders? What do you think they should start doing to feel more secure and confident in themselves?
That's a great question. And, I think there's multiple answers to that. But for me, the biggest one would just be talk. Talk to people. Talk to anyone who's in your support group, which is, family, your employees, a coach, therapist, a mentor. Having those conversations and just being honest. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of hearing themselves talk. I think when they talk to someone and bring these things to someone else, it's going to really help them. There's no one way to solve anyone's problem. Everyone's different. Everyone has their different things that they're going through and different ways to really move forward. But if you're like, oh, I'm in a company, you're in the position, you're like, oh, something needs to change, I don't know what it is. Ask the people who work for you. Have the humility to go up to those people and say, what do you think we could be doing better? Where can we grow? how can I be better boss for you? How can, like, what do you need that's going to make you work better? You can word it in a way that you feel comfortable with, but asking people like, how can I support you more? It's that's not even, it's being vulnerable, it's being in that position where you're asking them a question, but you're not being like necessarily saying, I need help with this. It's, what do you need? How can I help you? And as a boss, as a leader, that is your job. Your position is to give people support. You don't know what they need, but by asking for it, it's going to really support them, but it's also going to help you understand what you need to do and how you need to move forward. And it's the same if you have a mentor, or finding a mentor is something I think is invaluable, and being forward with them, like, I need to do this. How can I do this? I want to grow here. I want to be a better leader to my people. I want to be better there. What can I do? And they're going to have a whole lot of knowledge to help you and support you on that journey. But even going to your friends and family and just speaking how you feel, raising that awareness within yourself and hearing it come out of your mouth is going to be so powerful. You're going to I'm very believing in people as themselves being whole and having the resources they need to get to where they want to go, and talking it out or even writing it down is ways that you can find solutions that you just didn't know were in you. And I think having a conversation with people just gets that out of your head, gets it into the air, and really brings like a lot of power to that situation. And also starts building confidence, because you're seeing within yourself that you're making changes to be better. And that straight away is going to be like, wow, look, I'm making a change here. I'm doing something. I'm moving in a direction. Because I see a lot of people stay stagnant. They're like, oh, I need to do this, but I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And it's like, I know it's easy to stay where we are. Our brain wants us to stay where we are. We want to be in the safe position. We know we're safe here. We know it's secure. We don't have to go and fight for off. We don't do anything. We can just stay here and be in this position. This works. But you're not growing. You're not moving forward. You're not moving in a direction. You're not trying new things. And ultimately, confidence and growth comes from trying those things. Even if it doesn't work out, you're going to learn a ton. You learn the most things from the things that don't work. If we constantly doing things right, it's hard to learn a lot. You're not falling over, we have this, as a child, we come out and we're trying things all the time. We're learning to walk, we're falling over, we're getting back up. We're falling, we're getting back up for months. And then eventually we learn to walk. And then we're learning to talk, and we're trying, and we're making mistakes, and we're failing, and we're then want to learn to ride a bike. And what happens for a lot of people, I feel, is they get to a certain point and they just stop trying to do things. So I think the biggest thing is just to try different things, talk to people, take the opportunity to have humility, and just go and talk. Express how you feel, express where you want to grow and what you want to change. And if you don't know, ask people who are there, who you're working with, who you're in that position with. I think, yeah, that's
I completely agree. No notes. So for my last question here, let's say you've got a new leader and they haven't necessarily just become a leader, but a leader that's just joined a new department or a new company. They've just taken over, or even if it's different shifts, right? Yeah. What are some of the things that they should be thinking about, and some of the questions that they should be asking their direct reports to ensure that there's a smooth transition of activities? Because again, if one leader likes to have things done a certain way and the leader before liked to have things done a different way, rather than the leaders just coming in and barking, what kind of things do they need to think about, and what kind of questions do they need to ask of their direct reports to make sure that they're not accidentally just coming in with a sledgehammer and causing problems to people and
Mm,
everyone.
yeah, that's a great point. And, I do see that a lot, especially now within the industry that I'm working in. A lot of roles are two different leaders and they do manage different departments. And then they're working with different departments as a leader. They're working with the same department with different leaders. And it can really change the dynamics of a team with different leaders. So I think something that's very powerful, again, like I'm a big advocate on this, is just like communication. Don't assume. Assuming is really detrimental to a lot of people. Like you, from the past experience you've had, could be completely different. You hope you're going to somewhere where you've done your research and you understand where you're going into, but the way that you'd be doing things can be very different to how another leader's doing things. And I think really communicating with someone and understanding them is where we really find a lot of power. Like communication, understanding why and what's being done somewhere is so powerful. Like even if you're not doing even if you're not doing things amazingly or to the best of your ability, I mean, not you should be doing things to the best of your ability, but if you're not doing the most amazing, if you're not, I think understanding is just really powerful. Like you go in and you understand why things are being done and how, if you need to improve them. And if you don't, like you might go in somewhere, why is this happening? And be so confused at why they're doing it like that. But then with that communication, instead of just changing it, you go in and you say, oh, okay, what's the reasons behind this? Why is this set up like this? And then they'll explain to you why it's like that. Or they will say, oh, we just never thought about doing it another way, But they might have a very valid reason for why it's working like that. And once explained, you can then understand that and get on board with that, rather than just having your own assumptions that it's the wrong way or it needs to be changed. It needs to be different. It's not how I've done it before. It's going to be uncomfortable coming into a new environment. You're coming into the unknown, and that's okay for it to be uncomfortable. That is absolutely natural. But coming in and trying to rewrite everything, rescript everything, it's going to take a lot of energy, and it might not even be the best thing to do. So I think understanding what's already in place and really, if something does need to change, taking your time with it and understanding now this is going to be the unknown for everyone else. So having that humility to say, like, I think we should do this, explaining your ideas and just being really honest and open about everything is something really powerful that people in new positions can do to just make it a little bit more easy and free flowing, that transition. I think, you can always be prepared and not prepared. I think before you get to that position, really thinking about the questions based on your past experience of what's important to you in those positions and things that, how things work, understanding how the place you're going into works as a whole and why it works like that and their values and what what the direction of the company is and how how their destination is, their journey is, where they want to be, where they're going, their ideas and their support. Because again, if we're assuming things, we might be working in the opposite direction of someone else. You might be trying to get something somewhere to one place and that's not their idea. So I think this is where communication is really important to understanding the workflow, what the company wants to move to, what their objectives are. Because you never really know. And I think a lot of people presume things based on their past because where they were, that was their main objective. But now they're in a new place, their main objective might be completely different, So understanding that, and if those objectives are things you had at your last place, just clarifying, like, are these things that you value? What are your values here? What's important to you? Where are you trying to get? And just asking those questions. So it's not, you're not going in somewhere and making all these changes or having a leadership style that isn't going to work in this environment. Um, but also understanding the leadership style that these companies want and they're expecting, because they might not be expecting innovation and change, and they might just want it to be how it is. And I think understanding what people want is, if you know what people want, I think you're really getting ahead of the game, really.
I completely agree. Thank you so much, Ezra. Really, really appreciate your time today. Where can the good people listening and watching this find you?
Yeah, so I'm mainly on LinkedIn at the moment, and it's my name, Ezra Sinclair. Um, and yeah, that's the best place. I post articles and videos and all kinds of things on there to kind of, yeah, basically go over what we talked about today and implementing leadership roles in communication and conflict management, how to grow. There's also like lots of tips, and I'm going to be dropping some um, cool kind of PDFs and other things like that, which people can download and use on a day to day.
That's great. Thank you. So I'll be putting that link in the description for wherever you're watching this or listening to this. So you'll be able to connect with Ezra there. I'll also put my LinkedIn as well, so you can connect with both of us and continue the conversation. So thank you so much for watching or listening today. Make sure you forward this on to somebody else who could do with listening to it if they might want some tips. And we will be joining with each other again soon.